Bama takes on Michigan, the Reliaquest Bowl. Not quite the Rose Bowl it was a year ago, but guess what? It's football. We're going to preview it right here on the Bama Tailgate Show. Let's get this party started.
The original Bama Football Tailgate Show is on the air. Alabama football is rolling, and we've got you covered with a breakdown of the game matchup, an SEC preview, and all the fun of an afternoon on the quad with national championship winning quarterback Jake Coker and CoverCrimson.com host Mick Gillispie. The Bama Football Tailgate Show is presented to you by Pearl River Resort Casino in Choctaw, Mississippi. Let's play, featuring the Sportsbook at the Timeout Lounge, Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, and celebrating 30 years of excellence. Also brought to you by Yuengling Lager. Yuengling, America's oldest brewery. The only beer you at a Bama tailgate party. 22 Bills, where the spirit of the athlete meets the art of sustainable living. The Floribama world-famous Beach Bar and Lounge in Orange Beach. Visit Sevierville. Your Smokies start here. Plan your next Smokies adventure at visitsevierville.com. Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Screw the usual. And let's toast a hashtag to the Screwballs every time the tide rolls. R&R Cigars, home of the Alabama Victory Cigar. Unique bar on the Strip, home of the NFL, MLB, Premier League package. Catch all the games at Unique. Visit Tuscaloosa. Not too small, not too big. Tuscaloosa is pronounced just right. Pond Royale, located at 1019 McFarland Boulevard in Northport. Cover Crimson YouTube and CoverCrimson.com. Rolling with the tide 24/7, 365. NewLifeArt.com, publisher of Fine Art Editions by Daniel A. Moore. Use the code BAMATailgate for amazing deals at NewLifeArt.com. Sticks Tractor and Tree Service in South Alabama. Affordable pricing and customer service guaranteed. Now the host of the Bama Tailgate Show, Mick Gillispie.
Roll Tide, everybody, and welcome to the Bama Tailgate Show presented by Pearl River Resort. And for the next 2 hours, we're going to preview number 11 Alabama versus Michigan, 11 o'clock, Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida. It's the Reliaquest Bowl. And on today's show, we got Kenny White from Vegas. Boy, we got a lot of big matchups that we can talk about today. All the second round of the college football playoff. Clint Lamb from Cover Crimson is going to jump on with us. We'll talk with Thom Abraham, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Taylor Hicks, Kevin Sport, Carl the Cook Lewis from Gaten and Grilling. We'll have the old Catfish join us as well. So we got a pretty good show for you today. This is the Bama Football Tailgate Show. It's presented by Pearl River Resort in Philadelphia, Mississippi. It's a short drive from Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Vegas-style sportsbook at Golden Moon Casino. Play $50 at the sportsbook and get a round of golf at Dancing Rabbit for $40. I'm Mick Gillispie with a guy that could be a professional golfer, Mr. Jake Coker, and ready to talk a little Bama. 9-3 Bama, 7-5 Michigan. Roll Tide, man.
Roll Tide, roll Tide. It's been a while.
Yeah, I forgot what you look like. It's good to see you again.
That's right. That's right.
How have the holidays treated you?
Oh, they've been good. A lot of running around. But good to slow down a little bit, see the family, and get to watch some college football.
There you go. There you go. It's not the game that we wanted, but it's a consolation prize and a bad consolation prize. I got to tell you that. Now, I don't want you guys turning the radio off because, I'm making fun of this bowl game, but I'm making fun of this bowl game. Bama should have been in the college football playoff. It's been a disaster without them.
The first round of the college football playoff was basically a lot of consolation prizes for those poorly the teams that shouldn't have been there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, we made the playoff. I think
yay!
The committee said, hey, we're going to put a bunch of teams in here that that quote unquote deserve it when they didn't play anybody. And so, and look, you can say, I think there's an argument. You watch the Tennessee Ohio State game. I think you and I, but I mean, you watched the Alabama-Tennessee game, middle of the year. That's one of the worst games Alabama played. I mean, Tennessee, I never thought was one of those teams in the SEC that was probably in the top 3.
Mm-hmm. They had a light schedule compared to a lot of people.
Scheduling worked out right. They got to play us in Tennessee or in Knoxville, and I mean, again, if you watch that game, Tennessee's. I just feel like they're limited on offense, and they're a good SEC team when they show up, kind of like us. But when you watch this playoff, I mean, to me, even if it's South Carolina and Ole Miss in there that get in the playoff over us, I mean, put the best teams in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Enough of this crap.
I mean, did you? I didn't watch a single playoff game through and through. I mean, it was just
they were all blowouts. I watched some of them.
I watched the Texas Clemson game. I mean, I did, but
but none of them were good. I was
not a single underdog covered.
No, and I knew that was going to happen. But what was disappointing is that they, you let this committee of idiots decide what they're going to do, and that's what they do. They make it political and they put in crap teams because they felt like, oh well, their records were good. Well, when you don't play anybody, you probably would have a good record. So today's game is a bad consolation prize to me, but we haven't been on since the Iron Bowl. And I want to say this before I get your thoughts on the Iron Bowl. Thank you to all of our stations on our statewide network. We appreciate you so much where you're listening today. And also covercrimson.com. Jake and I do Elephant in the Room, and then the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. I know some of you guys are watching, but we're on 2 spots. That's how important we are. We got 2 spots on. We want you to subscribe to both. All right. 28-14, Coach DeBoer got a B for the season. If he beats Michigan in this game, I'll give him an A. No, I'll give him a B+. But B right now, you beat Auburn 28-14, 5 in a row. 9-3 regular season. Could have been better, but all things told to me, I think the guy did a good job, and I'm glad that we beat Auburn again. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think B+, on the verge of an A. I mean, just it's tough to lose to Vandy and in a bad Oklahoma team in the way we lost to them and get to that A grade, if you ask me. But it's also, and it was tough to watch us come in and play pretty poorly in meaningless games. I say meaningless games. You know what I mean. We played down to the competition and really didn't show up and dominate physically when we could have easily beaten Vandy and Oklahoma. Having said that, coming in with, trying to set the tone very quickly and instill your values in a program is very tough. I think he did have a lot of leaders in Jalen and Booker and Malachi Moore that really helped bridge that gap. But it does take time to create that culture that you want and have guys respond to the way you coach and get teams ready. I do think there was a transition there that, in coming from Washington to the SEC, a lot to learn, a lot to understand when each week you've got a target on your back, you're Alabama, everybody wants to beat you. And coming from Washington to Alabama, I know that's a change. The scheduling's different and the mentality of the teams you're playing is so different. Again, I've mentioned it on this show before. I've played for coaches that have come from all around the country, and some of them being from, Lane said that. He said that this year. The SEC is a completely different league. It's not even remotely similar to any other conference. Maybe the Big Ten, but I wouldn't even put the Big Ten in that.
They have too many easy wins. They have too many easy wins. Guys, as you hang out with us today, I want to remind you that we're brought to you by newlifeart.com. Yeah, that's right, newlifeart.com. The Daniel Moores, you guys know about those. Use the promo code Bama Tailgate at newlifeart.com, 20% off. Right now, Deuces Wild featuring freshman wide receiver Ryan Williams and freshman defensive back Xavier Brown, both instrumental in Alabama's 41-34 win earlier this year over the Georgia Bulldogs. Take advantage of our discount code on all the classics. The Bama Tailgate Show is brought to you by Pearl River Resort and Casino in Choctaw. Now's a great time to make your picks count at the Timeout Sports Lounge and Sports Book. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk more Bama and Michigan, more of the original Bama Football Tailgate Show right after this.
To Pearl River Resort.
Back in on the original Bama Football Tailgate Show, getting you set for Bama and Michigan. Take advantage of newlifeart.com's Bama Tailgate code, 20% off when you go there. Use that holiday money that you've accumulated and spend it pimping out your Bama man cave. Like and subscribe if you're watching on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. And Roll Tide, everybody, with Jake Coker. I'm Mick Gillispie. Catfish coming up next segment. Bama versus Michigan in the Reliaquest Bowl. Jake, this is not the bowl game that we thought we were going to get, but when you looked at the choices that Alabama had, I thought that this was the best one. You play in this game in Tampa against Michigan. If you played in the old Citrus Bowl, it would have been against Illinois. Nobody wanted that. And that would have been in Orlando. And then if you played in the Gator Bowl, which I would have liked that. I mean, I like, I love Jacksonville, Florida, and you play it there. But it would have been against Duke. And who cares? I mean, who wants to play Duke? Yeah. So the matchup, I guess, matters. But it's the third time now that Bama's played Michigan in bowl games here lately. And this one, obviously doesn't have the luster that last year's game in the Rose Bowl did, the game that went to overtime. But anyway, like at some point you're like, who cares, right? Yeah. Just give me a decent helmet matchup.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're not making the playoff, you want to play a program with some historical significance where you're going to have fans show up from both sides. Obviously, this game's going to mean more to Michigan than it will us having an opportunity to make it to the playoff. And then, you get snubbed there at the end. At least we get to play somebody again where we've got a history there. They've got a rich college football history. Gives us an opportunity to get up for this game. I mean, you end up playing a team like Duke or Illinois. I mean, it's just not the type of bowl game that I think the entire locker room gets up for and excited about. I mean, you do get to go travel and with your teammates and have a good time. But the highlight is the game and to be able to play Michigan, that'll be a memory for a lot of those guys and they'll get to, send these seniors out on the right note, having played Michigan.
Bowl games sure have changed a lot. And I know, man, I've been pounded in the comment section for not respecting this game a lot, and I guess part of that is that I believe that Alabama deserves to be in the college football playoff. And I feel like they got snubbed. I know that some of you feel like they didn't earn it. Mike Johnson was kind of telling us on the All-American report on Cover Crimson YouTube. Well, look, he felt like that. I didn't feel like that.
I will say, I mean, look, I can say that too. You watch us play. I mean, it was very frustrating at times during the season. That Oklahoma game, I mean, you've got the season on the line and you just lay an egg. I mean, it's totally embarrassing and there's no excuse for it. Having said that, I mean, it's a 12-team playoff now and you're sitting here watching SMU get drilled against Penn State. Everybody knows that Alabama, Ole Miss, or South Carolina would line up and beat SMU, and we let the politics get involved and put a team in that, again, quote unquote, is more deserving. I don't believe that. Clemson didn't belong in the playoff. They win their conference they're in, and you've got a team that loses to them and they still make the playoff. It just the logic doesn't work for me. And I want to see games in the playoff that are good games that that have a lot of players that are going to provide that atmosphere of intense football and fans showing up, and there's a lot of momentum and weight on this game. I don't want to see basically a first round bye for Penn State or an Ohio State or one of the higher seeded teams in the first round.
Well, I mean, and I think that's kind of why I'm feeling like this college football playoff has sucked the life out of these bowl games.
It's not so much to me. It's not so much. Is it deserving? It's I want to see the best teams in there,
right?
And I know that Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina are better than
SMU and Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
SMU and Indiana.
Indiana. I said, yeah, not Illinois. I say this, man. I can't believe I've gone this far because I've been so against this big playoff because I always like thinking that college football was different because the regular season was the playoff, right? But what I'm finding out is that those days are over. So now I think that what you have to do is just make the playoff so big that you incorporate all these bowl games like this Reliaquest Bowl, like the Gator Bowl and the and the Citrus Bowl and all of them. And then those games are significant. Michigan's got 4 of their best players opted out for the game. 4 guys that could be in the NFL. Now we'll talk about Alabama. Well, because I love the fact that our guys are playing, but if you make the playoffs so big and everybody's still in it, I mean, who cares? You're still going to get all these blowouts, but at least the game's significant enough where people want to play in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, 10 years ago, you didn't really have this problem. I mean, people weren't opting out until 2016, right around there, and bowl games did carry weight back then. I mean, my red shirt sophomore year at Florida State, I mean, we were kind of one of the first bowl games where they put a, most deserving team in the Orange Bowl. We ended up playing Northern Illinois. I think they were undefeated that year, and we made it to the Orange Bowl. We ended up beating them, I think, like 35-7 or something like that. I mean, nobody opted out. It was the Orange Bowl. It meant a lot, no matter who we were playing. Even though it was a team that I don't know if everybody was really enthused and excited to play, it was still the Orange Bowl. But nowadays you just don't have that mentality anymore. And so the only answer to that is giving everybody a chance in the playoff.
I mean, I think that's what keeps you, interested in these games. I mean, a team like Alabama or South Carolina, Miami had a case. I feel like this, like I would rather have too many teams in at this point and maybe a couple teams that don't deserve to be in than not have enough teams that deserve to be in. Because, I look at this playoff. Now, I think that this committee did an awful job. They gave Boise State and ASU buys. Come on, man. Like they're so dumb. They absolutely missed the fact that wins count and scheduling counts. And even if you said you had some bad losses, Bama had great wins too. And they didn't value those at all.
Texas is going to have an easier game this week than they did the first round.
I know, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I would say they said, well, we're going to go to 14. No, man, just go to like 32. Just go ahead and put all these bowl games in. What's it matter?
32. I mean,
what's it matter though?
Well, because in football, it's not like basketball.
Well, they do it in the lower league.
Yeah, but it's not like basketball but in that league too, the parity and talent. I mean, the talent across the board is far more even. In college football, even though the portal and NIL has opened up.
Should have seen your reaction
for lesser teams.
You didn't like that 32 team.
No. I mean, you talk about blow.
A lot of football, though. Do you like football games?
Be like watching, the ones versus the threes in a spring game.
But what league doesn't have a big tournament? And that's what the late great Mike Leach used to talk about. And that's when I started to kind of change my opinion. Is when he was like, and by the way, I'll be at Captain Tony's in his honor, celebrating New Year's, Key West. But the thing to me is like, what's it matter? You know, like every league has it. High school football in Alabama has a big ass tournament.
Yeah.
NFL has a big ass tournament. You know, why not have it in college football? I mean, the TV networks hijacked college football and turned it into this. But now, I mean, I'm still watch that and I'm going, not to have Alabama in the tournament needed Alabama more than Bama needed the tournament this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a 12-team playoff this year. They couldn't get that right.
No, awful. Awful. All right, let me ask you this. Rose Bowl last year, Saban's final game. Your thoughts on that?
Coach Saban's final game?
Yeah, you played for him, didn't you? You saw you were I saw you palling around with him on the sideline earlier this year.
Here we go. Here we go again.
You were buddying up to him. Here you come. They got the whole team lined up, and there's old Coker right there next to Saban. Is that like TV time?
Hey, I love me some Coach.
It's it. You think about it though, it's still weird kind of that he's not the coach.
No, did you see Shane Gillis?
Yeah.
Alabama Jones.
Yeah, I thought hey, but you know what? And you've said the same thing. You've echoed it. You said they wasn't paying people, but, and Saban was like, look, I got guys paid in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, well, they weren't paying me. I mean, I never saw that.
But you knew other people getting paid.
I have no idea what. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that doesn't ask questions.
But wouldn't you? But if somebody on your team was getting paid and you're the quarterback, aren't you being like, hey man, how about a little something for the trouble here? A little something,
hey man,
something.
I'm just happy to be there.
A little something for the trouble. You just kind of find the money guy.
Nah, hey,
Saban was awesome.
Trip over at Innisfree. He hooked me up. That was all the payment I needed.
You got some free beers in there?
Yeah, just let me skip the line.
Hey, there you go. Oh, yeah, right. So we still do that. How about the time we did the show there this year? And I think it was us three, Trip, me and you, and maybe Robbie. I don't know. But I said, hey, you guys want anything? Trip, it's on your tab. Michigan feeling pretty confident after their win against Ohio State. That was a big win for Michigan. They've beaten Ohio State. They get the formula now.
I think it's 5 times in a row.
Is it?
I think it's 5 times in a row. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Ryan Day though he did himself a solid there, beating Tennessee the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
I think his seat got a lot cooler after that. Even Herb Street, he was on the. He was on the Ryan Day defense after that victory. They played a great game. I don't know if anybody's beating them on that night, in Columbus.
Right.
I think they came in on fire, and there was nothing Tennessee could do about it. After that game, I think they make if they can play that way, they sneak in. They got a chance against Oregon. I mean, they played them close last time.
They're going to beat them. I think they're going to win it.
Yeah.
They spent $20 million plus on talent. I mean,
well, there's no team in the country that has the financial backing, like Ohio State,
which I don't understand. I don't even get that. But
no, they got a ton of money. The alumni, I mean, they've got a ton of money up there. It's kind of like we talked about on our podcast. It's there's a huge difference between some of these other schools. There's a lot of passion around Alabama, but in terms of individual money, a lot of these teams, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, I mean, the money's different around there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I hear you. This game defines the program how?
It just sets the tone for next year. We sending Jalen and Malachi and everybody out the right way and starting 2025 on the right foot. We putting the right foot forward, or we're taking a step backwards. And I honestly don't know if we go in there and lose this game and play terrible, if it really matters too much for next year. I think you just got to try to send your seniors out on the right note and set the tone for next year. But at the end of the day, Kalen DeBoer's done a great job recruiting. I think he's got to portray that, or at least put that idea out there for these recruits that he's got us on the right track and we're moving forward going to win ball games and set the tone and create a platform for these guys to make money in NIL, no matter which game we're playing in.
Next segment is brought to you by our friends at Visit Sevierville and the Smoky Mountains. We're part of Visit Sevierville, and right now we're in the middle of Smoky Mountain Harvest Festival. You can find out, including 4 self-guided fall driving tours, winter driving tours as well. Visit Sevierville.com for all the details there. We're going to bring on the Catfish. He swims in. When we come back, Bama and Michigan, the preview of this big matchup right here on the original Bama Football Tailgate Show, brought to you by Yuengling Lager, America's oldest brewery, right after this.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager, a medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer, made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Elevate your taste. Yuengling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
Welcome back. The original Bama Football Tailgate Show, previewing Alabama and Michigan, the Reliaquest Bowl, 11 o'clock in Tampa. Mick Gillispie and Jay Coker here on the Bama Football Tailgate Show. Great to have all of you guys with us. All right, our next guest needs no introduction, but we have one for him anyway.
My name is Catfish, living life just right. Mortgages by day, Alabama football at night. From the start of dawn till the stars meet the night, I roll tide, roll with all my might.
You got to love that. The guy gets his own introduction. I mean, come on. That's what it's all about. There he is, Mr. Chad Anderson, a.k.a. Catfish, hanging out with his dog as we talk Alabama and Michigan. What's up, Cat?
Special guest today. This is Ivy. Ivy turns 10 on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So 10. Happy birthday, Ivy.
I know. So Ivy's been hanging out, getting all the special stuff. Jake would love Ivy because this
Jake's
is
not a dog guy.
Old Catfish. He's a wannabe Herb Street.
There you go. Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's perfect, though. That's perfect.
Good one there.
That is. I don't even have a comeback for that. That was a good one. Go away, Ivy. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
You
Get
set
the hell out of here.
yourself up for that.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah. Although
right,
if Ivy could give me some field passes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, really. Tell you what, all of us. All right, let me ask you this. You're a well-traveled Bama fan. Your experience playing in the Outback Bowl, I shouldn't say that to you. Your experience in the Outback Bowl, because you never played in it. Neither did I. Did you play in the Outback Bowl? None of us did.
No.
Hadn't been to the Outback Bowl, right? Since 96.
Well, no, that's where, the Outback Bowl, even Raymond James Stadium, I'll go there because we were there for the national championship.
Well, yeah, so the Natty, but it wasn't the Outback Bowl, but that's the location. But the 96 Outback Bowl that was played January 1st of 97 was actually played in a stadium that doesn't exist anymore. It was
Really?
Houlihan Stadium back then. And it didn't, I don't even think it had an upper deck. I went to that game.
You did? That was Stallings' last game.
It was Stallings' last game. Man, it's a great story. I was 12 years old, not even 12 yet, still 11. And we go down there. That was our Christmas present. Go to the Outback Bowl, take a trip.
I was too. I was 11 too.
Yeah. And we head down there and we just kind of go to practice. You know, you didn't really know, like today, when the team was going to do this or do that or have practice, because you didn't have social media and all that different stuff. You relied on newspapers, or the local news or something. So we find out there's the practice or the walkthrough. We go down there. Me and my brother are hanging out, Mountain Cat, and we're hanging out, and Stallings comes out and he grabs both of us and says, "Hey, come here." And he carries us in the locker room inside the stadium and grabs 2 footballs out of the bins and hands them to us. And we actually got them autographed by him. A few weeks later, he was up in Huntsville. That was awesome. It was a great memory. And my brother was trying to get some other autographs, and I'll never forget, Sean Alexander comes out of the locker room, and my brother goes up to him and says, Hey, do you know when Sean Alexander's coming out? Because he's my favorite player, and I've been wanting to get his autograph. And Sean, is a freshman at the time and just had that big game a few weeks prior against LSU. And he just says, "I be Sean," and signs his hat and everything. So that was like a really cool moment, cool memory. Beating Michigan was cool. Alabama actually hasn't played Michigan a whole lot in their history. More so recently with, the Kickoff Classic in Dallas, and then the the Capital One Bowl a few years ago, and then of course the Rose Bowl last year. Orange Bowl lost to Tom Brady. So had some.
That was my senior year.
Yeah, Flugner.
We had a 21-point lead, by the way.
Yeah, twice had a 14-point lead and blew it. All over an extra point. That was brutal.
Well, Chris Samuels was out for that game, and you don't realize how important having a monster on the offensive line is until you don't have him there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you this: Jalen Milroe playing his last game for Alabama. Your thoughts on Jalen Milroe?
I don't know. We've talked about it before. Jalen's such an up and down guy. Like some games he looks like the best quarterback in the country, and then other games he looks like he couldn't start for Vanderbilt. And you're just like, which one are you gonna get sometimes? But when he's good, he's so good. Like he's electric. He's amazing. But then he has some of those games you're just like, where did this come from? Like, who is this guy? But like I said, I appreciate, the heart, the grit, the effort. He won an SEC title. He went to overtime in the national semifinals. Had Alabama in position this year to make the 12-team playoff. Just didn't get some breaks, even though Alabama didn't play well in a couple of games, but also didn't get some breaks on the last weekend of the year. So I was actually going to ask Jake that question: if you're an Alabama fan, is one game really that big of a deal? Like, would you rather have Ty come in and start and get reps in a true real game, or is it better to send the seniors out and kind of do the farewell tour for Jalen?
Man, I think if you got one last game with your teammates, and Jalen, to me, is a guy, although didn't get a national championship, as a starter, the transition he went through, Coach Saban leaving, him sticking around, and really, in my opinion, through that time being the face of the program, I think you got to send him out on a high note and do the best you can in order to support those seniors and allow them to have a true positive experience at the end of the year. Obviously this year didn't end the way we wanted it to, and it was a very weird year in terms of just, we look like world beaters against Georgia and then blow it against Vandy and Oklahoma, play well against Missouri and LSU, but it was one really strange year, and I think you gotta come out against Michigan and show some continuity, show that this program's on the right track, and like I just said, show recruits that Alabama's still whether we don't make the playoff or not, we're still a platform that draws attention, draws eyes, and allows for recruits, whether you have a great year or a mediocre year, that you can still be sold and marketed and make money in NIL.
Yeah, I get all that. Agree with a lot of it. The only, and I'm one of those, it's like, if Ty played and started one game, is that really going to change the course of direction for him next year if he ends up being the starter, playing in one bowl game? Is that going to be the difference in if he's successful or not? The only thing, you look ahead to next year is that you start off, you don't get to start off with MTSU. You start off on the road at Florida State. And while they had a crappy year, we all know that they're going to be looking to avenge a 2-10 season. And just the year before, they were undefeated, as we all know, before the Orange Bowl. So we'll see how that transitions for whoever's starting next year.
My cousin owns a restaurant in Tampa called Henderson's. Make sure you guys swing over there and check it out if you're in Tampa. I'm just to throw him a shout out. The other thing that you need to do, though, is you want to get into a studio like this. My man, Chad Anderson, can take care of you on that.
I appreciate it. We've done it a couple of times. So we've got a new program out and started promoting that over the last few weeks. Scan the QR code there on the screen, or if you're listening on radio, visit chadwickanderson.com. QR code's at the top of the webpage. Zero down programs available. And then we've done some HELOCs lately. Those are home equity lines of credit. So if you need some cash, this is true story. We actually took an application. Somebody closed the same day and had money in their bank account 3.5 days later. So that's about as fast as humanly possible on those. And holiday debt, unfortunately, we all go into it. We're still saving customers $400, $500, $600 a month on debt consolidation. So hit me up there. You do cell phones 256-509-8200. chadwickanderson.com has all the info as well.
All right, thanks, Catfish, and roll tide to you, my friend. We've got more of the original Bama football tailgate show coming up, including Gaten and Grilling. Taylor Hicks, Carl the Cook Lewis, Kevin Kaneka Sport. Yeah, all those guys. Right after this, the original Bama football tailgate show rolls on.
When you say Bama Jamma, Yellow Hammer, Alabama, Roll Tide Roll.
I need a good night, need a real good bite. I need to get my world right. Yeah, I'm gonna get chill, get my fill. Oh, down at the Bama Grill. Oh yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to my friend Reese Bates down at the Bama Grill in my old stomping grounds, Greenville, Alabama, serving up some of the best food on the planet. And that got me to thinking, I've had a chance to meet a lot of great cooks, chefs, pit masters, just giving all that love to their communities. Aren't we lucky to have them? And I'm going to tell you something. We got that guy here with us at Gaten and Grilling today. Chef John Rayleigh is a world-class chef, but he's a world-class person. And Louisville, Kentucky has been mighty lucky to have him. So buckle up, hold tight, because we're going to have a great Gaten and Grilling today. You're in the Gaten and Grilling zone.
Roll Tide, everybody. We are at Kimbrough's. You know that. As you watch Gaten Grilling, Taylor and Kevin getting it done, Carl, the Cook Lewis, and all of our great guests. But I want you guys to be part of the Bama Tailgate family. And you can do that with dCommunity, dcommunity.io for those of you guys listening on radio, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel, all you got to do is hit that QR code right there. But we got weekly cash prizes with our Score Pick'em contest for Alabama. And then we're going to pick one winner and give somebody a national championship game weekend at Pearl River Resort. But it's also about us just being in the same spot. So dCommunity, Roll Tide, everybody, Bama Tailgate family, be a part of it.
Gaten and Grilling at night.
I
You
love
didn't
it.
lie, man. You got Chef John Rayleigh here?
I do. And I wouldn't lie to you because I ain't married to you. But yeah, Chef John Rayleigh is in the house.
In the house, in Gaten and Grilling.
Gating and grilling. He's been on the grill this afternoon while y'all been over doing your thing. So
Okay.
let's
all
see
right.
what he's got. John,
Let's see what he's got. Come on, brother.
Man, how you doing?
You are the man.
Yeah.
You are
Man,
the man.
what's
how
up,
you
my
doing,
brother?
dude? I told you guys
This
that
guy.
I would be back down here, and I told you that I was going to hit you guys with something that's going to make you duck. Okay?
Oh, man.
I hit you guys with that lollipop, bourbon glazed meatball bacon wrap.
Kentucky man.
Hey! I told you.
You told
you.
me.
Dude, so let me see what we got because this
Let's
has
see.
been on the grill for a little bit. I mean, really, it only takes about 30 minutes. Okay, that's all you got. You're only gonna take a piece, okay? I told you. That's all you get is a piece. But look,
All right.
but look here, guys. The cool thing about this quick and little dish, it only takes 30 minutes.
Really?
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
Even me.
Well, yeah.
Well, I
there are
know.
some exceptions, but we'll work
Yeah.
with you. What we have here,
This is one.
like I said, is we have a nice lean ground beef with Conecuh sausage
Mixed in.
mixed in with it,
Oh,
with
sweet.
a nice Monterey Jack cheddar cheese in it, with my man's John Boyd. Yeah, that's right. What sauce did you give me today?
This
to
is
play
the
with?
sweet and mild to go with the spice that you had in there.
And I'm telling you what, you can't beat this with a stick. The good thing about it is, if you're tailgating, you can even put your favorite beer in the sauce and break it down a little bit. Don't put nothing stronger, because you got to remember you're cooking with heat.
But here's
Okay?
the thing we put in there is your favorite sauce. What's that brown water?
Bourbon.
Wow.
Let's try
Are
it.
you kidding me? Let's
Hey,
try it.
Let's give
I
it
mean,
a try.
Man, this gives
Man.
me hope. I can try that at home.
Look there.
Yeah, man.
Guys, look
Oh
out.
my goodness.
Look
Hey,
out.
look,
We
there's
got another
Troy.
special guest.
Troy, come on.
Troy, what's going on, my man?
Come on here,
You
bro.
never know
Troy,
who's
how you
gonna
doing?
be in Gaten and Grilling.
Wow.
Troy Lachetta. We got
My
Riz
man.
and the Believers here.
We do.
How
Oh
cool
my
is this?
God.
So you
Listen
guys
to
are going
this.
to be rocking out tonight?
We are.
Hey, looking forward to hearing some good tunes.
Hey, let me
as
tell you
always.
what. Let me tell you, world famous drummer Tesla. Oh
36
man.
years, yeah.
Yeah, man. Love you, brother.
36 years.
Hey,
36,
glad
you
you
don't
could
even
come
look
up.
like it.
That's about as old as the bourbon.
Is like, right
This
there,
is
man.
this is
I'm just saying.
this is it, isn't it?
Right, I'm just like,
Right, right.
Hey, man.
I'll tell you what.
Tell me what
Let's
you
try
think.
one.
Tell me
Come
what
on
you
in.
think.
Let's try
Here
it.
you go,
this
my
is worthy
friend.
enough to go beat the drums.
Come on. Let's try it.
Go get one.
Look
Try
at here.
this at home.
Look at here. Look, if you're not getting this at home, that nice smoke ring. Look at that. Look at that tenderness. Oh,
Boy,
Let me tell you something. You are the man. Y'all are the man. This is awesome.
I love this
All right.
lifetime Jacob Grilling stuff.
you got love.
brings
Jason and
people
Grilla.
together, man.
It brought us together.
It brought us
That's
together.
what food does. It's the only international language. You gotta love it.
Food and
You're
music.
so right.
You can solve all the world's problems.
Food and music.
I believe.
Roll Tide, everybody. Welcome to Kimbro's. Yeah, that's where we are right now with Gaten and Grilling, and we appreciate you guys being a part of the Bama Tailgate Show. But I want you, though, to take advantage of D-Community, dcommunity.io. Just hit that QR code right there, but it's our community. It's a place where we go not just to pick games, but we do that each week. We have the weekly pick'em contest where we give out cash prizes, and also one trip to Pearl River Resort for the national championship game weekend, where you get the golf and you get the free stay and the food and all of that stuff. But really what this is about is having a place where we get together, the Bama Tailgate family, and talk and hang out and be a part of it. And it's free. So that's dcommunity.io, Bama Tailgate. We'll see you there. Roll Tide.
Gaten and Grilling at night, man. What a great hang. Man, thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Hey, thank you
for those
guys for
meatballs.
having me. Hey, I love delivering my saucy balls to people that enjoy it.
Ain't nothing like it.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Hey, we got a surprise for you. Coming up next, we got Riz and the Believers, and I'm going to tell you something. You're going to want to follow him.
Right.
He's amazing, and he's got a great group of people around him. We got Troy. Shut up.
From Tesla, 36 years.
John Salloway.
Guitarist, my man.
Let me tell you something. Y'all are going to love it. Enjoy. We love you. Gaten and Grilling. We'll see you next
You guys take the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for rocking with Risen Believers, man. Shout out to Kimbo's for having us. We hope you guys had as much fun as we did tonight, man. But if you haven't yet, follow us now, man. Check us out on all the social media platforms, all the streaming platforms, wherever you listen to music. It's Riz and the Believers, R-I-Z-Z, and the Believers with a Z. We love y'all so much, man. Keep loving your heart, keep loving your soul, and spread that around the globe. It's your boy Riz, man. This one's called Believe. I believe good things are coming, that will all be made brand new, that there's a higher reason for the pain that we go through. I believe the sun is rising on better days. There will be no more fights, no more forgiveness and grace. I believe, I believe, I believe. good things are coming. Do you believe? I believe that being honest will lead us to the truth. I believe that we are worthy of redemption, me and you. I believe that there's no mountain impossible to move. Do you? I believe good things are coming. The love will find a way. You began to change the world the moment you pray. I believe nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. I believe we can fix a heart anytime it breaks. I believe we have a purpose, for God's sake. Do you?
Escape to Pearl River Resort.
Welcome back to the original Bama football tailgate show. The Crimson Tide and the Michigan Wolverines in a game played in Tampa, Florida. The Reliaquest Bowl, 11 o'clock, Bama and Michigan for the second straight year in a bowl game. This one, though, not quite the intensity, not quite the meaning that last year's, but it's a bowl game, and it's great to have Jake Coker with me on the show, as always, brought to you by Yingling Lager, America's oldest brewery, and proud sponsor of the show. Great tailgate brew, by the way. And our friend Thom Abraham from 97.7 ESPN The Zone in North Alabama, Huntsville, and I guess really everywhere else up there. But good to see you, Thom. Good to see you, Jake. Second hour of the show. Thom, let me get right into it. I want your opinion on this. Jake and I we've talked about this ad nauseum, but Bama skipped for the college football playoff, coming in at number 11. The committee made a special exemption to keep them out, it felt like, and the playoffs have suffered because of it, at least in my opinion. Your opinion?
Well, not only Alabama, but, I mean, clearly we've got, I would say, 6 of the top 12 teams in the country playing in this playoff, which has given us a scenario where, we had games that were predictable blowouts. Now there's Tennessee too. I mean, that was unpredictable. That was unforeseen. And that didn't, that kind of hurt the league's reputation a little bit, the way Tennessee went in there and got slammed by Ohio State. But then that's left us now with a quarterfinal round where we've got 2 double-digit favorites. Games that, look, let's be honest, we wouldn't even be watching those games on New Year's Day if it wasn't for the fact that they're playoff games. But, at Boise State and Penn State, I mean, really. And, you can make a case not only for Alabama, but South Carolina and Ole Miss would all have been much more competitive than we saw out of Indiana, SMU, Clemson. The list goes on and on right now. We're going to see the same thing, I believe, with Arizona State, and with Boise State. They're just in a different class. It's just the way it is. And I think it'll get fixed. It'll get rectified quickly. But you know what? All Alabama had to do was make one more play against Vanderbilt. Just don't throw a pick six. That's it. And then not only would they have been in this deal, they'd have been in the SEC championship game. They might have beaten Texas. They might have had a bye. Everything came down. For those that say that the regular season is made meaningless by the 12-team playoff, well, tell Alabama that, because one pass in the flat that Jalen Milroe didn't see a Vandy guy floating out there, that play changed everything for this playoff. And, and it ultimately excluded Alabama. And, it's just when you look at it, the way it all unfolds and so on, it came down to good wins versus terrible losses. And apparently the terrible losses were worse than the good wins.
Yeah, I agree with that. What about you, Jake? I mean, have you enjoyed watching this the postseason this year? And Thom, you kind of jump in. I feel like that they're going to have to expand the bowl, basically the playoff for these teams. Because these games are meaningless.
When I've seen, we get away from the BCS system, which I think it was great, to get away from that in terms of having a 4-team playoff and being a little bit more realistic in how we choose who is in the playoff. But, man, you go look at that BCS computer ranking for the 12-team playoff this year, far more competitive looking landscape in the playoff and far better matchups. And, I think Florida State, that whole situation last year, the heat that Kirk Herbstreit and the rest of the playoff committee got or received from that whole ordeal, I really think it affected the way that they picked a playoff this year. And, you like to always think that a committee is going to make the right decision. There's going to be no bias involved, no personal feelings or whatever you want to call it. But, I think clearly the Florida State situation last year where they left out a team that, there's a big argument on what's most deserving and who the best team is. And I think last year we went with the best teams, and this year we're going with most deserving, which I guess, they relate that to how many wins versus strength of schedule.
And I don't like to make too many observations off of the bowl season because you got so many guys opting out. You guys got guys opting out in the middle of games. You got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But the reality is this is all being borne out by the fact that the ACC is now 1-9. 1-9 with 3 teams left to play in the bowl season. 4 of those losses are to group of 4 teams or group of 5 teams, I should say. So the ACC as a Power 5 conference is a non-factor. That's a non-thing. The same thing with the Big 12. If there was any year that you could clearly see that the SEC and the Big 10 are just different, it is the Big 2, the Power 2, whatever you want to call it, and everybody else. And that's going to have to be addressed at some particular point in time. And we'll see what happens now. It feels like, we're going to have a Final Four of 2 SEC teams and 2 Big 10 teams. And, we'll see what it looks like in the final, whether it's all SEC, all Big 10, or an SEC and a Big 10. But the SEC and the Big 10 are playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers. And it's just the way it is. Now, for today's game, I'd be honest with you. I get that it's the Block M and it's, Michigan. But how does Alabama go from being the first team out to having to play a team that was finished in the middle of the 7-5 unranked team from the Big 10? If Alabama and Miami were the first 2 teams out, wouldn't Alabama and Miami have been a much more attractive game? And I don't know if Cam Ward plays the whole game, but man, I would have rather seen Alabama and Miami, run it back like it's 1992 and get George Teague out there to, flip the coin than Alabama and Michigan. Alabama's got nothing to today. They're 13.5, 14-point favorites. Mm-hmm. They have to win the game convincingly. And then it's, they should have. They're much better than, what Michigan was. Michigan's got everything to play for, a chance for them to step up and finish their season, beating Ohio State and beating Alabama, for their final 2 games. It's a lousy game to be made. However, when Alabama does beat Michigan later today, they'll have beaten the team that beat Ohio State, and they'll have beaten Georgia, and they'll have beaten the team that beat Texas twice. So again, tell me what that means. Does that not mean anything? You're talking about 3 of the teams that are in the quarterfinals of the playoff right now, all traced back to getting beat by teams that by Alabama. And so that's, don't lose to Vanderbilt, don't lose to Oklahoma.
But shouldn't it matter, like the fact that you go out and play tough games? If you play tough games, you're going to lose some games, right? Bama played a tough schedule. They put in teams that played nobody, that beat nobody. They did it out of basically, like Jake said, because they felt sorry for Florida State. Florida State would have gotten blown out off the field, just like the other teams in the ACC have, had they been put in that situation last year. Sure. And it's just a shame to me that this college football playoff is such a joke. Nothing about it's been good.
Well, if SMU doesn't lose by, if they lose like they should have lost multiple touchdowns against Clemson. You got Sean McDonough up there talking about how, these two teams should be in the playoff. How do you leave SMU out? And then Dabo coaching at Clemson, and Clemson doesn't even belong in the playoff. And post game, he's saying, this is a playoff team. I'm like, man, you don't even belong in the playoff. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
It was just they folded to the pressure. They folded to the pressure.
SMU, Arizona State, Boise State, 7-5, 8-4 against Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina's schedule. Playing those people. And again, what I try to explain to people, it's the cumulative effect. Now, I also believe that if Alabama had gone to Oklahoma and lost on a field goal in overtime or something, something crazy, a late turnover or something like that, that may have made a difference too. There is no excuse for Alabama to go to Oklahoma and get dominated in that game by a middling Oklahoma team. There's just not. And hopefully, Kalen DeBoer and his staff, however many of those are back next year, they'll learn something about going on the road in the SEC, because they were totally a different animal on the road in the SEC than they were at home. I mean, it's just the way it was outside of the LSU game. But still, those teams that are in that playoff right now are 7-5, 8-4 at best teams in the grind of the SEC, where it's cumulative week in and week out. It's just a fact. I mean, they'd be playing in not even the Gator Bowl. I don't even, you name it. They'd have been playing yesterday in the Music City Bowl or something.
Hanging out with Thom Abraham from ESPN 97.7 ESPN The Zone up in North Alabama on the Bama Tailgate Show. Thom, let me ask you this: your grade, as a well-seasoned journalist and a guy that's coached football and been around the game for a long time, your grade first season, Kalen DeBoer.
I say B+. I mean, I said 9-3 in Dallas. I sat in Dallas and said 9-3. That's what that would be. A 10-2, you throw them a parade. Well, 10-2, they'd have been in the playoff. They would have been in the SEC championship game. So I would say B+. I think there's something. I think there were some moments that were a little bit big for him, but I think that he's capable of adjusting to it. He's held together a really nice recruiting class. I think that he got stuck with an offensive coordinator that was over his skis. Because he didn't, remember Kalen DeBoer came here with Ryan Grubb as his OC, and an offensive line coach that's one of the best in the country, and ends up losing both of those guys. And now he has to scramble and make his tight ends coach the offensive coordinator. So I think, maybe he'll be an opportunity to make a change there, and we'll see what happens. But I think overall, I'd say B+. I mean, I'm not ready to, jump into Warrior River.
All right, let's take a break. Well, Thom, you hang with us, and let's do the pick segment with you this week.
All right.
Talk about the college football playoff. Let's talk about the games, and we'll see what you guys think it's going to look like when it's all said and done. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Bama Tailgate Show, brought to you by Yuengling Lager, America's oldest brewery. Make sure that you check it out. Next time you're going to a tailgate party, you want to make that party the right party, pick up some Yuengling or Yuengling Flight. We'll be right back.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager. A medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer. Made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Elevate your taste. Yuengling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
Back in on the original Bama Football Tailgate Show, and I want to remind you guys about Tuscaloosa. Visit Tuscaloosa.com. The farmers market takes place every Saturday at the River Market from 7 to noon. You got the Civil Rights Trail self-guided tour that includes 18 stops around Tuscaloosa, Tuscaloosa Amphitheater with all the great college, with all the great events, including stuff from the college going on, but some awesome concerts, Druid City Music Hall, all that. Visit Tuscaloosa.com. Great to have Thom Abraham with us from 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And, of course, Jay Coker. I'm Mick Gillispie. It's time for that pick segment brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Guys, let's jump into the college football playoff and pick those games. And let's start with Penn State against somehow a number 3 seed Boise, which tells you how bad this committee is. But it's the game. 11 is the spread. Boise State is the underdog. 52.5 is the over-under. Thom, I'll start with you first.
I like Penn State obviously in the game to win. I'm not sure about that big number, the 11.5. Penn State's playing their best football of the year. It's an opportunity for James Franklin. I think he has to not only win this game, but I think he has to beat that Georgia Notre Dame winner for him to really get the monkey off his back about big games. This is a big game, but it's Boise State. The Genty kid is really special, so it'll be interesting to see how he does against that great Penn State defense. But I'll take Penn State, and I'll say they pull away late to get the cover.
All right, what about you, Mr. Coker?
I can't believe this is even possible, but I believe Penn State's playoff schedule has been easier than their regular season schedule so far. And so, these big lines in playoff games, I think more so what I've seen just looking at lines over the last few years, I think these double-digit playoff lines, I think the favorite usually, that's an indicator for the favorite to win. I think the public's all over Boise State. So, Penn State's known to choke in the big games, but I think they pull through and cover this 11-point spread.
It's unbelievable to me to think that Boise State is a team that got a bye in the college football playoff when you look at their schedule. But that's how good the committee did this year. All right, let's take a look at the second game, the 7-seed Notre Dame versus the number 2 seed Georgia. The Bulldogs are a 2.5-point favorite. 43.5 is the over/under. Georgia and Notre Dame. This is a game I'm pretty interested in. I think Georgia's going to clean them up, even with the quarterback situation, Jake. But you know what? Your guy out there, Kirby Smart. I think that this is the team to beat, even with all the issues at quarterback.
Again, if it's not for the line, if you didn't tell me what the line was, I'd say Georgia. But at the same time, you got Riley Leonard over at Notre Dame. He's a mobile quarterback, a guy that has given a lot of teams fits, and Georgia's got their number 2 guy in. I love him, love the way he plays, extremely tough. That SEC championship he made it a lot of fun to watch in that second half. But line at 2, man, I'm going Notre Dame. I think if Carson Beck's starting, I think it's a different ball game. I just think it's tough to make your first start in the second round of the playoff against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame hangs in there, and it may be a 1-point game. Georgia may win, but I don't know. I got to take Notre Dame.
Wow,
plus
that
2.
was a curveball there. Curveball, Thom. What do you think?
I think that Georgia reminds me a lot of Alabama in the last few years of the dynasty, if you will, the Nick Saban years, where it seemed like they would step up at the big times. And that's what Georgia has done as well, is they've stepped up in big times outside of playing Alabama. But they're not playing Alabama. They're playing Notre Dame. I'm not saying it's quite Notre Dame playing Alabama for a national championship several years ago, but it's a different animal, man. You come into the dirty South. Notre Dame's got to come to New Orleans. Love Riley Leonard. Love the job the staff has done there rallying that team. But in the end, it seems like Kirby Smart and those Bulldogs, they still have that certain thing where they just take their game to another level in these big games. The 2 wins against Texas. You can go back to what they did to TCU and what they did to Florida State, regardless of Florida State's roster. I mean, they just tend to go to another place, if you will. And I think that's what's going to happen here ultimately. I think Georgia will cover fairly easily. I think they'll have a much harder time with Penn State, but I think Georgia will cover the little line fairly easily. And I think Notre Dame is going to look pedestrian, not quite like they did against Northern Illinois. But I'm going to take Georgia here to represent the SEC and win this game by 10 to 14 points.
I'm with you, Thom, and that's an easy one. Over Jake.
And I'll say this: I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about it.
Give you a mark for that one, Thom. That's going to be one for you and none for Jake.
This is one of those scenarios where I look at that line, I'm like, why is that what it is? And I know that the backup's playing for Georgia, but it still just seems like a little Vegas. That just makes me think Vegas knows something here.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going against my gut. I'm going with Vegas on this, but I don't feel good.
Well, I think though that what Vegas uses a lot of computer models and they use a lot of numbers. And see the Georgia that throughout the season kind of muddled around a little bit. When you look at their comparable numbers, they're one thing, but then there's that eye test thing, and there's like, look at the way they play in major games, important games. It's almost like they're hanging around waiting for games like this that really mean something. That's why I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah.
Unless they're playing Alabama.
Unless they're playing Alabama. I mean, that's a whole other animal, Who knows what next year? Boy, I tell you, next year at Georgia, can't wait for that one. I mean, that's going to be something.
Yeah, they show up for big games. The way when they play Alabama, it's like Dad shows up at home with the belt.
Spanking. All right, here we go. Texas. This is a really compelling matchup. Thank you, College Football Committee, for putting this one together. Texas versus somehow a team that is a higher seed than them, Arizona State. 13.5, though. Arizona State is getting in this game. So a big underdog. 51.5 is the over-under.
Higher seed, but not higher ranked. I mean,
right.
In the same case with Boise State, they had to do that. The committee, I can't blame the committee for those two because of the rule that they came up with, that you had to have the highest ranked top 4 conference champions. The fact that 2 of the conference champions would have finished in the middle of the SEC or Big Ten is not apropos. It doesn't matter. They had to seed it that way. That's why I think they'll get that part fixed. This is a bloweout, by the way.
Yeah, give me your take on it.
This is a flat out blowout.
Yeah, give me your go ahead. Just keep rolling with it. What do you think?
This is we'll see Arch Manning in this game a decent amount of time, and this is one. By the way, did you notice all 4 of the first 4 playoff games dumped the bench in the the home teams all dumped the bench in the fourth quarter? I mean, that tells you a lot. They were playing like it was a pay for play game in the middle of the season. I mean, it was like one of those games, but. No, I think Texas is just way too much speed, too much of everything. Give Arizona State a ton of credit for the season that they had. I mean, goodness gracious, they were picked last in the Big 12. Yet, they're playing a game here on New Year's Day. So having said that, though, this is where the rubber meets the road. Texas just blows them out.
All right, Jake, what do you think?
All right, this is kind of similar. This is how I've begun to pick games over the years. Just this line, I mean, Texas is so much better than Arizona State. I don't get it. It makes no sense. I think Arizona State somehow scores a touchdown at the end of the game to cover.
Backdoor cover.
Wow. So there's another one, Thom, that you're going to win over Jake. But you know what? This is what this is all about here. All right, final game. Because I'm just telling you, Jake, Arizona State's going to get beaten so badly. Let me use proper English here, that you're going to turn the TV off in the second quarter because you're going to be like, I'm not watching this. Now, here's another game of pretty high significance. And somehow the committee, you got to give them credit for just the absolute stupidity that they have. So this is the two of the best teams in this tournament now are playing. Somehow Ohio State and Oregon are playing again, and Oregon is a slight favorite, 2.5 over Ohio State.
I think it's the other way around.
Ohio State's favorite. Okay, so Ohio State's
2.5.
2.5 over Oregon. So I actually have it right on here. 55.5 is the over-under. This to me is one of the best matchups in the entire tournament, and it was one of the best games in the regular season. Guess what? We get to see it in the second round.
Unavoidable, though. See, again, it's unavoidable because Oregon wins the Big Ten championship game, number 1 seed overall. And Ohio State, because of the fact that you have to seed those other teams 2, 3, 4, where are you going with them? And this is what ends up happening. And you end up with Penn State, like Jake said. Penn State ends up with a much easier path to the Final Four than what Ohio State or Oregon end up with. And having said all of that, I think this is the toughest game to pick. This is really tough. Both of these teams are synthetic turf teams playing on grass at the Rose Bowl. Ohio State has to travel out there. I think the fact that Ohio State played so well against Tennessee is an advantage to them. I think this is where I think it's very, very difficult to beat the same team twice in the same year. unless it's Georgia and Texas, apparently. But I still think that Ohio State gets them here. This is going to be a hell of a game, but I'm going to take Ohio State in a classic Rose Bowl matchup. I think that was part of it too. They're like, oh, let's put, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 together one more time in the Rose Bowl. And I think that there was a little bit of that going on possibly as well. But I want to take Ohio State in a really close game here. I don't even know if they cover the 2.5, but I think it's a field goal game, and I'll take Ohio State to just barely cover the spread here and finish off Oregon.
I hear that. What about you, Jake?
I'm with Thom on this one. I think sometimes these bye weeks can be a detriment to teams, and I think Ohio State coming out playing the biggest first round matchup. I mean that may have been the best performance I've seen from a team all year on just one specific night. They looked like the best team in the country that night, and so I think that's a huge confidence builder. You go in, you got a chip on your shoulder playing against Oregon. I think everybody is on the same page, focused. I mean, ready to go. This is a game where they feel like they have a lot to prove, and so I'm going with Ohio State. Hard to beat a team twice, especially a team like Ohio State.
Jake, you and I will pick the Bama game coming up. Thom, tell us who you think's going to win, Bama, Michigan, and tell everybody how they can hang out with you at 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Well, I think Alabama will win the game. The question is, this line grew from 11.5 to now 13.5 or so. It might be getting a little bit rich. That Michigan defense is pretty stout. They're still filling their oats after beating Ohio State. I think this game is closer. I would take the 13.5 points. I think Alabama, look, if Alabama wins a game by 10, everybody's going to think, okay, Alabama won a game by 10. So that's kind of what I think that'll happen. You can catch me, of course, daily noon to 2. We'll be back on Thursday to our regular schedule, noon to 2 every day, 97.7 ESPN The Zone, and, of course, on the app at 97.7 ESPN and on our YouTube channel, WZZN TV as well. And it's been a pleasure all season long joining you guys on this show as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Another great season having you as well. You do a fantastic job, not just on our show, but on your show every day. Plus, Bassmaster Radio. And, when you talk about bass fishing with Jake, I'm surprised we even get to talk football.
Maybe you need to get Jake on Bassmaster Radio. That might be the thing to do. Now, look, you be careful. You be careful down there tonight. Now, I know how those keys roll on New Year's Eve. So be careful tonight. I don't expect too much. I don't be reading about you in the paper tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Thom, you see that shirt he's wearing? I don't think he lives on the side of caution.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I don't know. I guess when in Rome, right?
Guys, we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort and the Timeout Sports Lounge and Sportsbook over there in Golden Moon Casino. They bring you the pick segment each and every week. Check it out. Spend $50 at the Sportsbook. Play Dancing Rabbit for $40. All right, we'll talk more Bama, including Jake and I giving our take on this game. Clint Lamb joins us on the Tailgate Show right after this.
To Pearl River Resort.
Roll Tide again, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on the original Bama football tailgate show. Alabama and Michigan, the Reliaquest Bowl, 11 o'clock. Raymond James Stadium. And we're talking Alabama football here with Jake Coker. I'm Mick Gillispie. And from Cover Crimson on YouTube, covercrimson.com, our good buddy Clint Lamb jumps on. What's up, Clint? Roll Tide, friend.
How you guys doing? Did you have a good Christmas?
Everybody's doing well, I'd say. Jake, did you get a new rifle for Christmas or some new camo?
No. Got a few shirts, hung out a little bit. That was, a little time
some
off.
Rowback?
It's about the kids now, isn't it?
Get some Rowback. Oh, people are going to hate me for digging at you. All right, let's talk some football. Clint, off season for Bama. What direction is this Alabama program trending under Kalen DeBoer?
I think it's going to be more in his image. I think that's kind of the point. Anytime you have any sort of transition, I mean, you look at like Kirby Smart going from Mark Rick, Rick left that program in a pretty good place from a talent standpoint. Obviously, it was nowhere close to where Alabama was from a pure talent standpoint, but Kirby's going to do it his way as far as his culture, how he does things. His coaching staff is going to be different. It took obviously they go 8-5 in his first year. And then things started to pick up from there. I'm not saying that Kalen DeBoer and Alabama is going to follow suit and it's going to be the exact same thing. But what I am saying is that things can look a certain way in year one, and you don't realize that it's, some of it is personnel fit. Some of it is, just how Kalen DeBoer operates and how it's so much different than Nick Saban. It's not that it's a wrong way to do it. It's just an adjustment period for everybody. The types of players that he's been going after in the offseason, the types of players that Kane Womack's been going after. I think that you're going to see a little bit more of what they want to do both offensively and defensively. And I think that will create more of a product of what we were expecting in 2024. Now, will that lead to, an automatic, 10+ win season for Alabama in the regular season where like it's an automatic improvement? That kind of remains to be seen. But what I will say is I think how they play, the identity of the team, which is more so, in my opinion, funneled through the offense, a little bit more consistency from an offensive standpoint. I think you'll see a lot more of that in 2025. And then at that point, we can start evaluating, okay, the way that Kalen DeBoer operates, I think it's going to look a little bit different, and we can kind of gauge exactly how much it will or won't be effective in the SEC.
Who do you think the next Bama quarterback's going to be?
Oh, I think right now you have to assume Ty Simpson. And I'm not saying that either of the other two guys aren't talented enough. Keelan Russell is one of the most talented players, or quarterbacks that I've ever seen come to Alabama. Just because you're the most talented or one of the most talented doesn't automatically mean you're going to become that guy. But to say that type of player, if he proves that he's ready, not just from a physical standpoint, really with quarterbacks, it's mostly mental. I think that you gotta. You're distracting me.
I'm looking at him.
I know what Mick is thinking right now.
I didn't say it though.
I'm waiting to pull the knife out of my back.
It's hard, man. When we're all like distant like this, and we're not sitting in the same room. Him and I are sitting in the same room.
It didn't even cross my mind until you put Jacob, and then I'm like, well, I guess how do I? If you just would have given me a second, I could have steered that back and be like, and he's one of the most talented. Obviously, Jake's the most.
We were in Nashville. That Nashville show still I think it was my favorite show of the entire year. That was so fun.
And I don't know how.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I just don't ask me.
My co-host over here.
Don't ask me quarterback questions when I'm on here with Jake, because I don't know how somehow it ends up being directed at him. But I do think that Keelan has the ability to win the job. But I'm not going to make that assumption going in. I don't think that's fair to make that assumption. Austin Mack is a really talented guy physically. I think you saw it, at moments when he came in at the end of games. But we still don't know exactly what he's going to be. What we do know is that Ty Simpson has been around for a while. The coaching staff likes him. And he's kind of put in his time enough where he deserves the opportunity to be Alabama's starting quarterback. And if one of these other guys steps up and takes it from him, I think that only benefits Alabama, because I don't think Ty's going to be performing poorly enough where they have to go in another direction. But, at this point, I would probably say Ty should be the assumed starter. But I also wouldn't rule out anybody in that quarterback room because it's a talented group.
And that's a good problem to have, too. I mean,
not as talented as Jake, though.
No, and that's not
there.
That's the point. Not just that quarterback.
I was listening along. That was great commentary. I see that little, to put it politely, I see that grin over there in Mick's face, and I'm like, he's gonna ruin this. He's gonna ruin this.
As soon as he put you up, man, I was like, damn, how do I get back here?
I was like, here we go.
And I didn't know whether to just keep going or do I just acknowledge what was happening. So I'm like, you know what? No, you distracted me. So whatever.
Oh my goodness. All right. Transfer portal. Now, your thoughts on the transfer portal? A lot of guys going out, a lot of guys coming in. It's fluent, but your thoughts on what's happening there.
I think they got a lot of really good transfers. I don't think any of them are as good as that transfer quarterback from Florida State. About just under a decade ago.
That's why I'm sitting here. I'm about to hit the transfer portal. find me a radio host who shows me a little respect.
I could, as soon as he asked a transfer question, I'm like, well, let's just keep this going. This
He'll be on with
applause.
Coach Snoop next week.
Culture on this show is just, I mean,
look out for Kyle Henderson.
I do think they got some good transfer portal guys. I think once again, you look and you say, okay, these guys fill specific needs. It kind of complements some of the other pieces that they have, whether it be on the offense or the defense. You're looking at potential losses. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with Jamarian Latham. We don't know what's going to happen with LT Overton, but Kelby Collins, whether he's in a room with both of those guys or one of those guys, you also got Jordan Renaud, you got Keon Keeley. I feel like that they did a very good job of anticipating where they needed some help. Like Kelby Collins can kind of kick inside a little bit, be an interior pass rusher. I think that's an area as far as they applied pressure on the quarterback at a pretty good rate, but being able to finish and get some sacks and put, offenses in, a second down and longs and third and longs and kind of be able to tee off on them a little bit on top of the fact that the defense is really good at generating turnovers. I think that would be a very good combination. So they've just been identifying certain guys that would fit. Obviously, the talent's got to come into play. It can't just be a guy who's too limited. He's only going to be able to provide one or two things. I think a guy like Isaiah Horton, he's got the size, he's got the length, but I think he's kind of a more balanced option that people realize really does some good work over the middle of the field. So I like what they did in the transfer portal. It wasn't necessarily very splashy. It wasn't a huge volume as far as the numbers. I don't think they're necessarily done. I could see maybe one or two more, but I think that Kalen DeBoer and Kane Womack both got guys that they felt like could really help the football team in 2025. And I think it was kind of reflected in how they pursued the players that they got versus other guys who they allowed to get on campus and then leave, and then fans are wondering, why didn't you get them to sign, or why aren't you pushing for them more? I think there was a method to the madness, and I think, when you look at Kalen DeBoer historically, he's done a pretty good job of identifying transfer portal targets and how they can fill some of those needs, and you've ended up seeing the product on the field improve as a result.
Do you guys think that Michigan's a rival for Bama now? I mean, this is the third bowl game that we've played. You had the Harbaugh versus Saban stuff. Now you got, Justice Haynes transferring there, and it's like all the money they're throwing around. Or does it matter? I mean, it's just college football.
I mean, I don't know what Jake thinks. I mean, me personally, I probably wouldn't put it there. This type of game, there was for a short period, it was like Clemson, Alabama. They were starting to get a little bit of a rivalry going. But even when it was happening in the first round of the college football playoff and not the national title, there was still title implications. Like when you've got Michigan having several key players on both offense and defense opting out of the game, I think they already were very limited offensively in what they could do. I think that's going to kind of you're going to get a shell of what they even were this year. With Alabama, don't really have the opt-out problem, but you've got a lot of guys who have transferred. We'll see how that impacts things. But, I mean, if it is a quote-unquote rivalry or it's becoming one, it's more of just you see them several times. It's kind of gone back and forth a little bit, but only one of them's really had significant meaning as far as the national title implications and all that. So I don't know that I would go as far as to say it's a rivalry. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of right there with you. Michigan, in recent history, I mean, they've been with Harbaugh. They were consistently pretty good for 3 years. I mean, I know early on in his tenure at Michigan, he was on the hot seat a couple times. And, I mean, Clemson, Dabo's created a culture at Clemson. He's created, a solid history, in the last 5-6 years. I think you got to be at the top for a while to create a rivalry like that. I mean, playing in the Reliaquest Bowl isn't quite the hype machine you want, in terms of rivalry building. So, I mean, look, Alabama's on Coach Saban built a platform that stands on its own. I mean, nobody has had that kind of success ever. And, I mean, Clemson at least scratched the surface of Coach Saban's dominance. So, I mean, I would definitely say there's a rivalry there. a light rivalry there. There definitely was, for a span of about 5 years, but Michigan to me is just not on the level of Alabama, and they haven't had the consistency in terms of success that Clemson had over that period of time.
Tailgate Show is brought to you by Yuengling Lager, America's oldest brewery. And don't forget, Cheryl Yuengling, graduate of Alabama from Pottsville, Pennsylvania, came to Tuscaloosa and puts a little bit of crimson love in each one of those green bottles. The Yuengling Flight is out as well. That's their ultra light beer. So support Alabama, support Yuengling. Kind of goes hand in hand. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up. The original Bama Football Tailgate Show concludes right after this.
To Pearl River Resort.
Final segment of the original Bama Football Tailgate Show, getting you set for Bama versus Michigan. Guys, look, before we kind of give our scores, I wanted to sport my brand new Big Sexy T-shirt in honor of our late great host and really our best friend, Brett Elmore, who passed away. Part of the show. It's still hard to believe for me. You got to admit, though, this shirt's amazing. I mean, look at that.
Yeah. You should have gotten that when he was still around, because he would have loved it.
He would have loved it. Look, there's his big smiling face. But thinking about him, man, and I wanted to tell all of you guys, Brett Elmore, of course, our buddy from Jasper. I should let me play his theme song real quick. I mean, just one last time for the audience, and then I'm going to tell you a couple things about him. Then we're going to do the score. But for Brett, one last time.
They call him Big Sexy, coming at you from the Walker County. Jasper is his hometown. He's known for giving free rundowns. Oh, Big Sexy, throwing out those Alabama thoughts, sneaking out your mom's window without getting caught. Nick gives you the XPs, but Big Elmo is here to please. Big Sexy Elmo on the Bama Tailgate Show.
All right, there you go, the Big Sexy shirt. Ah, man, we miss that guy so much. I loved it when he came on, and you didn't really you were trying to figure it out, Coker. He would come at you with some heat each week.
Yeah, it was a hell of a first impression. No doubt about it.
Man, we miss that guy so much. And what I wanted to say was this. First, we miss him on the show, but thank you to everyone that reached out, knowing that it was a really difficult time when Brett passed away. He was my best friend. I miss him, miss talking to him, and it was a really tough, I'd say 6 weeks. I don't even remember the first 3 weeks after he passed away, but I loved him. You guys loved him. I wanted to make sure that we talked about him a little bit on this last show. We planned on doing the show from Jasper, maybe from one of the places that he went to, and we'll do that next year. I just felt like, the timing wasn't right with this game and being on, New Year's Eve and all that stuff. So we'll get there for next season at some point and honor Brett in person. But we love him. We're praying for his family. And we know that the holidays have definitely been tough without him there in Jasper. But how funny was that dude? God, I miss him so much. All right. Let's talk about this game, guys. Start with you, Clint. Your thoughts, score prediction, Bama versus Michigan.
Yeah, I think right now, like on paper, Alabama, I think, is like a 12.5-point favorite. And it with the opt-outs for Michigan, the fact they were 7-5 team. Now, granted, a lot of those losses were to really good football teams. But I still feel like Michigan, we don't know what they're going to look like. We don't know what they're going to be from an offensive identity standpoint. Like, obviously the struggles in the passing game were already there. They still got Khalil Mullings, who has really been their main running back. I know Donovan Edwards was kind of considered the big star, the big name when Blake Corum left after last year, but just their run game has been more so Mullings even than Edwards. And Edwards obviously had an impact in the passing game as well. but just losing Donovan Edwards, losing your tight end. I mean, you lose a starting offensive lineman. So I don't know what they're going to look like offensively. I think Alabama, from a continuity standpoint, they have lost a lot. Like, you're not going to have Kendrick Law. You're not going to have Kobe Prentice. You're not going to have Caleb Odom. The receivers, the depth has been deplenished. The cornerback room is kind of up in the air, at least from a depth standpoint. So there are still questions for Alabama, but I think from a continuity standpoint, compared to where they were in the regular season, I feel like they got a lot more going for them. So I'm going to go ahead and predict that Alabama's going to cover. I would probably say maybe, somewhere between 28 and 31 points for Alabama, anywhere from 14 to 17 for Michigan. I'll go ahead and say 31-17, my final score.
I like that one. What about you, Jake?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like what Clint mentioned. It's like, I mean, it's just like throwing a dart at a map. Who knows who's going to show up, who's really playing, what the approach is for each team. Michigan offensively is not great. Us, I don't know if we are motivated to show up and play. I think everybody's going to show up and play hard for the seniors, guys who stuck it out, stayed the course and helped Alabama through the transition period. So, I think Alabama shows up and plays. I go 27-10.
There you go. Yeah, look, I think Bama's going to cover too. I just got a feeling that they're going to be ready for the game. I just can't see them going out there. All those players coming back. You saw the opt-outs for Michigan. Bama, the guys have opted in, So
and that's a great. Hey, to me, that's a testament to Kalen DeBoer. I think the kids, players want to support him and help him through, establishing that dominance that we're so used to at Alabama. And that's culture is one of the greatest, most key components to having a dominant program. And I think when you have players that opt in and play each game to win, it says a lot about the leadership at the top. And so, again, I kind of hitting back on what Clint was saying earlier, about Kalen DeBoer's approach to filling in these gaps. And, last year you've got almost 30 guys that leave, and he's just, trying to throw a roster together and has a 9-3 season. For us as fans, it's hard to comprehend that because we're not used to that. But when you think about really the adversity he faced and keeping this program together, trying to get as many bodies just in there that could play and get them ready to play as quickly as possible. Pretty impressive, in my opinion. That's not an easy role to take on, especially after Coach Saban leaving. But no matter what in college football today, you lose so much in terms of your roster with the transfer portal. So I think he did a great job and really building out that roster as quickly and efficiently as possible, getting those guys ready to play and really being in the playoff conversation, I thought was pretty impressive, especially when you have teams like South Carolina, Ole Miss. I mean, we were ahead of them in the playoff conversation. So I think he did a great job. I think we got a lot of positive momentum moving into next year. And again, these guys opting in really, to me, says a lot about what they think of Coach DeBoer, and they want to have one last go around with him.
Yep, no doubt. Clint, talk about Cover Crimson for a second. CoverCrimson.com.
Yeah, obviously we got the YouTube channel. Jake's part of that. You're a part of that. I'm a part of that. We have a lot of fun over there. So if you haven't already, go like this video for sure, but go subscribe to the Cover Crimson YouTube channel as well. A lot of kind of crossover on that front, but then also we got the CoverCrimson.com message board. Great community. Really been adding some people here over the holidays, guys with great inputs, guys with great questions. So, we love where that's heading, and we'll continue to head in 2025. We got a pretty awesome plan set up for that and how we're going to kind of continue to grow and implement certain things and switch up, how we operate some of the things from a message board standpoint. So it's just right now you're getting it on the ground floor. You'll be a part of the process, but just every time we're adding more people and the conversations continue to grow, it's a great Alabama community already, and it's only going to continue to get better.
Well, that does it for the show, and that does it for this season of the original Bama Football Tailgate Show, at least on radio, but you can always catch us on YouTube as well, like Clint said, at Cover Crimson and at the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel where we cover Alabama every day. What I want to say is thanks to all of you guys, to you, Clint, to you, Jake. It was a tough year. I mean, there's no other way to talk about it. I mean, Brett died in the middle of the season, so to kind of go through that, still put the show out every week, to have the support of all of the people that are out there that are part of what we do, and a lot of just great messages and love sent our way, and we appreciate that, and prayers towards Brett and his family and condolences. Thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun though, talking Alabama football. Even through the worst of times, we've had a great experience. Ryan Anderson coming on with us, all of our guests, Catfish being part of the show, hanging out at places like Innisfree and the Floribama and Coastal and all the other places we did the show, Unique on the Strip, hanging out with Coleman. But thank you guys at Yingling Lager for being a part of the show since we started. And Screwball Original Peanut Butter Whiskey. And visit Sevierville, visit Tuscaloosa, all the people that are doing this. And most importantly, our major sponsor, Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia. We even did a show from Dancing Rabbits. So thank you guys for being part of what we do. Alabama plays Michigan, and then we will see you next year, or at least you'll hear us on the radio next year if you don't check us on YouTube. But until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.